Happenstance. I'm Kendra, and it is time for another episode of Makes Monday. This episode is titled Replication. Today, as you will notice, I am sat at a park, and so hopefully you can hear me. It is like windy and buggy, and this park has a zoo attached to it, so you might hear weird animal noises. It's like over there. Yeah, and for right now, I think I'm basically the only person in the park, so hopefully this isn't too embarrassing, but I don't know. I'm gonna try and speak up so that you can hear me. So, I always like to start these things by talking about a word of the day and how that word has influenced my crafting and the items that we'll talk about. So today's word is replication, which, let me just pull up the definition from Merriam-Webster. Replication is a noun, meaning an answer or reply. It can also be an echo or reverberation, or a copy or reproduction. And it started, the first usage was in the 14th century, meaning to reply to something. So I guess all of these items were my personal reply to the what do I want to work on next? What is going to spark joy, as the case may be. If you have not already seen it, there's a video here on the channel where I talk about my word, which is actually an acronym of the year, which is joy, which stands for jovially occupying yourself. A question that I ask myself over and over whether or not I am living up to. And most of these projects have sparked that in me. Also, I think everything I've made is something of my own design, and most of them are actually things that have been with plans to make them public. And so I've been working on the patterns and thus making multiple iterations or replications of the same things. So let's take a little peek in the basket behind me of all of the things that I have not talked about in a while. So these items are things that I've completed since working on the items for the county fair. So it's been a fairly decent stretch of time that these all cover. I don't actually remember exactly when all of them were made or finished. As I've talked about before, my summer has been very odd and very busy and very, there's been a decent amount of travel for myself and other family members and just a lot of ins and outs. So the timeline in my head is more scattered than usual, but it's not really relevant. You just want to see what I made, right? So let's take a peek. I have a whole old basket here. So the thing on the top, I guess these aren't going to be in order. They're going to be in order of how they are put in this basket. This is a blanket. It's fairly good size. It's not just this big. Oh no, it's this big. And I made this out of all Red Heart yarns. The turquoisey color is all Red Heart Super Saver in that ombre thing they have now. It's actually 2 skeins of that. And then scraps that I had of all the rainbow colors, works from pink to purple and then back out. And I'm calling this the ombre blanket because it's got ombre and a rainbow. And I think it's a fairly cool way that I put the pattern together, that you basically don't have to cut the ombre strings. You just keep going, and so that makes for a nice put up, and it makes so that you did something with a lot of stripes without having quite as many ends to deal with. And I think this is going to be a really nice blanket. This is probably going to be a gift for a family member ultimately, but this pattern will be going into Peachless pattern pile. This is also, I've been working on some other things lately, and the stitch progression that I came up with for this is just, it's making me happy right now. There's something about it. It's in the usual Kendra style of every row of the pattern is different, which is where my brain finds a sense of flow. But this does have, obviously, you can see a repeating of those chunks over and over, which I know tends to be what other people like doing. So this will be a thing in the world, and this blanket will be going to probably a child, so it would work on like a twin size bed or whatever, but it's actually big enough to cover me. It fits perfectly on the back of a couch, like laid out, which, I mean, if this matches your decor, or your need of something like this would be a good choice. And it came together really quickly, but that was in part just because I kind of got a little obsessed with it, and it flew off the hooks. Another thing that I made this summer is this blanket, which there is a whole video here on the channel about. This is my Tiny Tails blanket. It is a spiral blanket, which means that I don't have to pay attention to the increases. They basically just take care of themselves, and I just go, go, go. And the thing that I find interesting about this is not necessarily the stitch pattern. It's very simple, and I enjoy doing it, but it's almost overly simple for my personal taste, which probably means that most people would like it. But the thing I really enjoy about this blanket is actually how I came up with the color progression. This one doesn't use any sort of random like dice rolling or number picking as usual. Instead, there was a whole bunch of weird ways that I randomized to come up with a system involving reading picture books with my kids and turning those books into these colors and making this blanket. And this was a fun project, mostly because the reading was really fun and it just made me want to do more of it. So there's actually more of these coming. There's more in process, more when it comes to the Tiny Tails, and we're all really enjoying that fact. So that is this one. Next, I was gonna weave in ends when I got to the park here. That had been my plan, and then after the ends are woven, I was gonna film this video. Well, I sat down and realized that in packing all my bags, I had moved all my projects into some different things to make them easier to bring. And I forgot my notions pouch that has my needles and my scissors. So I didn't weave in ends. I'm going to show them to you all hanging out. So this is a top that I started, I don't even remember when, but it's been a while. I went on a little spree this summer of trying to clear up all the loose ends I had, go through all my project bags, and really make decisions about like frogging things. And I did a massive frogging off camera of things that were not projects I wanted to be making anymore, weren't things I was going to want the final product on, were designs that I wanted to either scrap or I just needed to start over if I was going to be like testing them out. And this top is all made out of scraps of wool. From here, like from here down, is all scraps of wool that I had gotten from my husband's coworker. She had given me oodles of stuff a couple years ago when she cleared out a lot of her yarn she wasn't going to use, and I went through it and picked the things I wanted to keep. And anyways, these were all pieces that were too small to do a full item in, but together they made a thing. Then this, I made everything I had, and then it went in the project bag because I didn't have enough yarn to finish out the top that I wanted to make. Well, then this purpley silver color actually had been a finished object. It is a cowl that I made when I did winter camp, like years ago at this point. I can't believe how many years it's been since winter camp was a thing, but it was a number of them because I went back and checked. And so I took this cowl, which had been made out of one skein of yarn that I had gotten in a clearance bucket at the LYS by my in-laws' house. One time we visited. It was the first of 2 times I've been to that yarn store. And I guess I had I don't know, I think I enjoyed shopping there more the first time. I got better stuff, but that's neither here nor there. I don't know. I'm not super impressed with that yarn store. But this yarn was interesting. I forget at this point what it is, but it's pretty, and it's got this like metallic-y silver and purple, and it's got that chainette structure to it. So I went ahead and added that, and it still wasn't quite what I was looking for. But then I had this gray and white, which is a skein from Carla from Knit Crate. I forget, Villadonna or something. You know how Knit Crate is always like changing the names on the labels. I can't keep them all straight, but It's knit crate yarn, and you'll see more of it in a minute. But then I had the scrap from the other project I'm going to show you, so I went ahead and was able to fill in the neckline and the arms. And actually, this had been my original intent, was that the front was going to have this V-neck. And actually, I can wear it this way, and it's very cute. But the way I like it even more is turned around this way, because I still managed to get like a scoopy enough neck, because I don't like high necks. That's indicated by the t-shirt whose neck I cut off, because otherwise I feel like I'm choking. But I really like the way that this sits when I'm wearing it, and I am already working on making a tiered skirt. I cut all the strips out and I'm in process. It's gonna have like between 5 and 8 layers. I forget how many I cut. It's gonna be further striping, kind of like this, and it's just gonna be a whole outfit thing. So I'm looking forward to that, and I'm happy to use up all these scraps and things that I've had in stash that I kept because I really love the colors. A bunch of this actually, now that I'm thinking about it, I had turned into something. I had at one point made the lanyap shawl. That's what it was that I had made out of these. I completely forgot that's where this came from. They say scattered brain. Even I can remember most of my projects, but only on the fly, not like when I try. So I had made a lanyap shawl out of all of these scraps, which had no other really good use. I didn't like the way it laid, so I decided to scrap it, and then it became this. And now it just needs the ends all woven in, and then y'all will see it. And when I get the whole outfit done, I will probably share it again somehow on the channel, or you can definitely see it. It'll show up on my Instagram feed. You can follow me over there at HookedByHappenstance. I try to include when I make new handmade wardrobe items, because I am endeavoring to have a handmade wardrobe. Today is a poor example, though I did augment this t-shirt, which I do count as a handmade idea, is taking things that you own that are commercial, that aren't fully making you happy, and making changes to them to make them fit. That's completely handmade. Like, just because I didn't make this fabric myself or sew the base of the t-shirt, I chose the neckline, so that makes it fit in my head. So, anyways, moving along to this, which is that gray yarn I was telling you about. This is the Joy Shawl, and this is the newest pattern that is going to all patrons on Patreon. So if you support me on Patreon at the $2 level or higher, you have been instantly given access to the Inspirit shawl for the last year. Well, June, July, around then, the Patreon cutoff for months is kind of funky. But around then, I hit my 1-year mark on Patreon, and thank you all for supporting me over there. It has been a very good source of encouragement, having a bit of a creative, artistic, existential crisis, as I've been putting it, and trying to decide, just because I want to do these things, does the world actually need the things that I want to be doing and making and putting out there? I don't know, jury's still out on that, but the continued support of my patrons does make me think that maybe is the answer. So, anyways, this is the Joy Shawl, which is a shawl that I designed. It has kind of in my head 3 components. There's a jovial component where the stitch patterns all play together, because if you'll remember from my video about the term joy, joviality involves not just like a happy component, but the interconnectedness and like interaction with others. So I picked a stitch where, you know, the pattern all kind of plays together. And then the occupying, the midsection, has a stitch that just, it takes up space, which I think is an important thing for us to think about, like occupying both how we spend our time and how we fill our space, and also feeling okay with taking up space, because we all deserve to, I don't know, occupy a place in the world. Like, it can be really easy to try to like stay back and not cause problems, but sometimes we need to take up some space, and these stitches do. And then the edging is one that I consider to be a representation of myself. It is a little funky, a little out there, a little big, but also like practical and usable, and I don't know. It was one that spoke to me personally. So this is the second one of these I made. I showed one of these in the county fair episode. I took that one to the fair. And that was actually try number 2 of the pattern. This is number 3. And I love the way it sits. I've kind of been playing around with different shawl shapes, and I found that this is the shape that makes me the happiest. I like it because it covers my shoulders so that it actually like stays, and it comes forward enough that it stays like on, and I like this shape. I also like having a little bit of weight at the front because then my arms will kind of like naturally hold it down, and it can cover like my chest if I want it to, but for the most part it will stay open and around my chest because like I got enough going on there. I don't need more stuff. It also gives me the option when it's cooler to wear cowls and perhaps another shawl draped frontward with it and still be able to wear this shawl as well. So I like that. It gives me some options for wearing more neck pieces. And also a lot of times my arms are cold, but I don't like feeling like there's things too much. I don't like it. Though I interestingly do like wearing shawls the other way, like wrapped like this way. I like this. And actually with this, because of the shape it is, you can totally wear it frontwise too and zhuzh it. I'm not looking at myself. I can't see what I look like, so this is probably zhuzhed poorly. But yeah, I enjoy this. And like I was saying before I went off on a tangent, thanking patrons, if you sign up for my Patreon at the $2 or higher level, everybody gets access this year to the Joy Shawl. Because we all need a little more joy in our life. And y'all bring me so much joy, I thought that that would be a good way to embody the next year moving forward. Because the first year, I felt inspiritment, all of this like vigor and verve and all the good things because of having patrons. And now I'm trying to focus on moving forward and how we do that. And your encouragement is helping with that process. This Joy Shawl is made out of a bunch of Sweet Georgia mini skeins that I was so graciously gifted by Carla for my birthday. And I just decided to go through the pattern, and I went as far as each mini skein went, and then I just switched to the next one. And the skein set actually ended here with like this orange, but the pattern wasn't done. And I had this other peachy color, which is also a knit crate yarn, if I remember correctly, that Carla sent in that same batch of yarn. And so I went ahead and just added that. And her and I were talking about these colors and how in the set, I didn't necessarily love them, and neither did she. But then when they're worked up, they are so much prettier. And really, adding this peach is what did it for me. It was still kind of like, the orange felt a little out of place, but the peach drew everything together. So I think this is a really fun look. It was really fun to work on. It further just showed me that I love doing this pattern, replicating it over and over. I've yet to make one I didn't enjoy. I also have made one that I forgot to bring with me. There is another incarnation on my wall at home. It is made out of cattails yarn. You can see it very much on my Instagram. I went ahead and documented basically every hour and a half of progress on that. And so you can see it like growing, and it is going to be my Schwall of Fame for the next however long, probably a year, unless I really want to wear it, which I kind of really do. But I also really like the way it looks in my office, so I'm setting that up in my my filming location in my office. So that one exists in the world, and you can see it on Instagram. Now we have this, which is a replication of a thing from, I now realize it's like 2 years ago. And I don't know that I ever showed it on the podcast. I might not have, because I think I was keeping it a secret at the time. But maybe I did. I don't know. Does this look familiar to anybody? I made one of these that had purple, and the eye was blue, and this part was gray. This is a pattern I've designed years ago, I was in conversation with Nicole, who is Addicted to Yarn podcast, and she had expressed interest in the Stephen West eyeball shawl had just come out, I think. And we were talking about something about that and crocheting and the shape, the almond shape of an eye. And so her and I were talking, and then we were talking about something else, and I couldn't like stop with the mathing of the almond shape for the eye, and then I just needed to figure out if it worked. So I made one. And so while her and I are sitting there, I poof, make an eye. And then I was like, well, now what do I do with the eye? How do I make this a shawl? And so I devised a way to make the shawl shape that I really like, similarly to the other one that I was showing you. Shawls, I like them to stay on. So I like to have not too long and pointy in the back, because then I feel like I sit on it. And I like to have enough come forward that the weight counterbalances what's in the back, if that makes sense. So this has not been washed yet, because I haven't woven in the end. But the back looks like this. And it's going to be added to Peachless Pattern Pile here by probably the end of the month. And it is called the I-E-Y-E Got Your Back Shawl, because it has an eyeball on it. Now, depending on what colors you use, it looks more or less like an eyeball. I actually think it would be really cool to do blue and then make this part green and use it as a Halloween costume as Mike Lazowski from Monsters Inc., which I might actually do. And in that case, I would probably wear it like forward like this with like green underneath. In fact, that might be what I wear for Halloween. That's a good idea. Not that I really have any reason to have a Halloween costume, but like, why not, right? So that is this shawl, and like I say, I had written up that pattern, and by written it up, I had been doing it while I was on a VCAN, and so I was very distracted, so I basically just did all the crocheting freehand, and I was kind of keeping notes, but not very good notes, especially not like after the fact. So what I just did is I went and took the finished shawl that I have, and I read my crocheting, and I wrote up a pattern, and then I tested it, and it works. So so that is how that all shook out, and I don't know why it took me so long to finish it. Yeah, there's really no good reason. In fact, I had intended to have it out like right away, because when I had done that initial version, I remember telling Nicole that I would have it done by the weekend, and then like something happened, and it just didn't happen. But it's happening now. So that is a replication of something I have done before. Right, so I had to switch cameras, so if things look different, that's why. But my other one decided it was sleepy, and it was done recording. So this, I don't think I've shown on the podcast, but I have showed it on my daily vlogs, and I've showed it on Instagram. So this is made out of all of the scraps of Lion Brand Heartland yarn that I had in my office. I've been consolidating my yarn, making room, figuring out what I like, what I really want to have in there, and you know, whatever. So I took all of the skeins that I had scraps of. There was this blue, there was this lighter blue and gray, and I just freeformed a crop top. And then I put this really cute metal button on the back. So again, kind of like that last one, my initial thought had been to wear it this direction, like with a V-neck, and a little bit like off the shouldery with like a sports bra or something underneath it. And it totally fits that way. And actually come winter, I might wear it like that more, even maybe over like a thin black long sleeve something or other. I don't know. But for the warmer times, I have been wearing it with this little metal button, which I think was my grandma's. I got it out of my big like pile of buttons, which includes a bunch of things of hers. I don't remember getting this anywhere, so it probably is hers. I have been wearing it this direction, and I made a tiered gray skirt with cactuses on it, which you may have seen on my Instagram or my vlogs. I've been wearing it all the time. It's like my current favorite piece of clothing because it's so light and comfortable and just makes me happy because of the way it fits. So I obviously need to make more skirts like that. But this had turned out as a crop top with what I had, as far as yarn was concerned. I think it was like this longish, and it was fine, and I liked it just fine, and I have no problem like showing my stomach. I usually wear my skirts really high anyways because that's where they're most comfortable, and whatever, but I didn't like the feeling that my stomach kept getting kind of cold as it would move around and whatever. And I happened upon a shawl that I had made 2, maybe 3 years ago now, out of Lion Brand Heartland in gray, and I had just made like a quick triangle shawl out of it, and I wore it a lot one winter, but over time I haven't been wearing it because I just don't like the way it stays on. So I was going to make changes and kind of turn it into a poncho because I had some more of the gray Heartland. In fact, that's why I bought the gray Heartland that I did. I bought it at Goodwill. That's right. But I never got around to doing that. I kind of started and I just hadn't finished it. So I ended up frogging that shawl, even though I'd worn it a bunch and whatever, because I wasn't wearing it anymore. And so I reclaimed that good yarn out of that bad project, or what had become a bad project. I was treating like a bad project. And I put it into this project, which I really, really like, which enabled me to add a few inches. I actually had plenty of yarn. I had added many inches, and I tried it on and I didn't like the way it fit as well. Especially not with the outfit I was wearing it with. So I went ahead and then frogged a bunch of it back out and moved the ribbing up and made a little bit more of it so that I liked the way it fit. But I have been really enjoying this particular top, even though it's so funny. I like the way it looks on. I think it looks great in pictures. But I also like this blue. Even though I know it looks good, it doesn't like, I don't know, the blue doesn't really draw me in. So, I don't know. I know it looks nice and it feels nice, but it's not necessarily like it speaks to my soul, you know? But it's definitely a functional piece of my handmade wardrobe and getting used tons right now, and I'm looking forward to seeing how I can transition it across the seasons because I think I definitely can. So, I'll have to keep an eye on that. And now I'm parched, so. Gosh, filming these things, I talk a lot. I mean, I talk a lot in general when I film things, but whew, when I sit down and film a podcast, it's just like constant for many minutes at a time. Okay, I think there's one thing left in my basket, and this is basically done other than having the ends woven in. This is a replication of yet another pattern of mine. This pattern is already in Peachless pattern pile. Ooh, and it has a spider on it. Hold on. There you go, spider. Go be in the park instead of in my office. Oh, come on. It doesn't want to leave. Come on. Go, go. Be in nature. Come on. Nature. There we go. Okay. The spider's gone. But I didn't show you for all of y'all that don't like spiders. So, here we have this Simply Satisfying rug mat, which is a pattern that is already up on Peachless pattern pile. And this is one of my Scraptember endeavors. I started it just before the month started so that I would have a project going into the month. And this is like all my yarn scraps that I had in these rainbow colors. There's red, orange, yellow. As you can see, I just did the amounts that I had of each skein. These were all partials. And then when I got to the dark purple, I just didn't feel like it was quite the right size, so I kept going and added this light and dark gray. And I held it all double with a partial cone of white cotton that I had. So I really, really like the way this looks. It's just so cheerful. It was really fun to like make. This is my go-to rug pattern. It makes my brain happy in that same way where each row is different, so it's not just like doing single crochet forever. Drives me crazy. There's constantly change, but it's just a repeating pattern which seems to make other people happy. So this is a pattern that other people have made. So you might check it out if you're interested. Peachless pattern pile can be found on my Patreon, and when my new website goes up, there will be printable PDFs of everything available coming soon. Soon is taking longer than I anticipated, but I'm working on sustainability this year, people, and part of that means not doing too many things at once, and my days end up being full, and yeah. So, thank you all for watching my podcast today as I showed you what I've been up to. I have been working on other things. In fact, there is a pile of other things behind you that are in process, but I think I'm just going to show you the finished objects and not the things that are on my hook, because I just never know if those things are going to change dramatically between when I'm working on them and what they turn out to be. And yeah, that was a lot of things. So we'll just talk about the other things next time, and hopefully that means it'll be a next time sooner rather than later. Hope you all are enjoying Scraptember. Look at the bits and pieces you have lying around and try to make things that are useful out of them. I really do think scrappy projects are interesting, and they are full of so many good memories that where all the little bits and pieces came from. And it can also be a really great way to put some parameters on yourself, which can ultimately help breed creativity. Like having a few rules helps you to then be able to break all of the rules, right? So that is my suggestion. Hope your Scraptember is going well. If you are making scrappy projects, please tag them. Hashtag Yarn Scraptember on Instagram so that I can see them, because I am following that hashtag. So I will see you all next time. Bye.